Africa. And my name is Beverly Abakobaonye-Janya, founder and lead faculty of BOS. And it's a new institute, and we're so excited. The energy is high, and there's a lot of excitement about what we have to offer. And we're very, very delighted to have a very dear friend of the house, a friend of the family, a friend of sports people, a friend of all, a friend of the nation, a friend of the football lovers, the one and only Amobi Ezeaku, the GM of Rangers FC. Never say die. So before I bring him on, I would like to just do a little bit of an introduction, just to let you know a little bit more about what BOS is. I'm sure quite a few of you have been seeing some flyers, some posts flying around here and there on LinkedIn, and you probably want to know what it's all about. So BOS, otherwise known as the Business of Sports Institute Africa, is a brand new institution, although these things are never overnight. Trust me, it's been a work in the background for about 2 years, but it's now ready to come to the public forum. So it's a brand new institute which is dedicated to the empowerment of sports business for the African continent by Africans. And how do we do this empowerment? We empower sports business through education, through upskilling, through mobility, job mobility, internships, placements, and last but not the least, by promoting enterprise in sports business. So we are really, really excited about BOS, and this is the first of many thought leadership series where we will be hosting remarkable people like our esteemed guests that you see before you today, people who are powering institutions across the African continent, being the standard bearers for what it means to run a credible, sustainable, and profitable sports business that has a mission, not just to impact, but also to sustain itself. Because that message of sustainability doesn't really always come through when we talk about sports on the African continent. So now I would like to take the time to introduce our speaker, and I'll read out his credentials. He's very, very accomplished, so forgive me if I only focus on the football aspect. He had a life before football, but we are here today because of the incredible things he's done for Nigeria, and definitely the things he's that have reverberated across the continent. So Amobi Ezeaku is the current general manager of one of the greatest ever football clubs in Nigeria called Rangers FC. Never say die is the slogan. And apart from being one of the youngest GMs in Nigeria, would you believe that he's also one of the youngest on the African continent? So he's truly a remarkable human being. And one of the things I love about Amobi is that he is very passionate about personal and career development. And even though he had already achieved so much by 2016, we're talking 7 years ago, when he took his team to win the NPFL, which is the Nigerian Premier Football League Cup, he decided to go and upskill, train himself abroad, because we've not had these institutions locally. So he did the UEFA certificate in football management. And not only that, he also has a FIFA Masters. So he's doubly qualified. Amobi is a man that truly represents Black excellence. Black excellence in everything he does. He's a family man as well, married with 2 wonderful kids. So he truly epitomizes what we want to see, the new narrative of what it means to be young, Black, and successful in an industry that has by and large been very, very unstructured. So Amobi, we're going to be talking to you today about various aspects, starting with your vision and the fact that you have used storytelling and skills, 2 very powerful components in the world today, to transform not just the club, that you work for. We're talking about a club that was set up, back in the 1970s after the Biafra War to help rehabilitate people traumatized by the effects of war. So we're already seeing sport being used as a tool for peace building and community building. And you took a club that was already quite old and distinguished and maybe was, getting a little bit stale, if I may be permitted to use that. And you came and injected fresh life, a fresh angle. And you did that with your personality, but also on the basis of the skill set that you've acquired. So I think one of the first questions I'm going to ask you, Amobi, how do you do it all? You you manage, you're a man of the people. You love people, you're passionate about the young, the old, and it shines through, especially in the way you deliver your leadership. So could you just talk us through what led you on this journey to become eventually the GM of Rangers FC? And then we'll just carry on the fireside chat. There will be an opportunity for Q&A, so do put all the questions you have in the Q&A box. This is the time to engage and learn and share. So Amobi, over to you. Thank you.
Great. Good afternoon, Mrs. Beverly, distinguished professionals listening to us, young enthusiasts, fellow dreamers of Africa. It's really a special day for me. It's a real honor to be here, with the Business of Sports Institute Africa for this landmark conversation. I think it's a conversation that is not just about sports, but about our identity, our economy, and our destiny. And like you asked, how have we been able to do some of the things we are doing now? I think it's a matter of belief. I think it's a question of understanding that more than titles, that we grew up loving the club from childhood, dreaming under the stadium lights, and returning to serve the club. You are coming to serve an institution that you once looked at from afar. So what we did when we came on board in 2023, when I came back as the CEO, was to clearly draw up a strategic plan considering the history of our club. But then, like you asked, let me just give a short recap of the whole journey. I will start from the moment when I became the team manager in 2016, when we won the MPFL, breaking a 32 years genes. I found that what was lacking was the belief on the part of the players. That's, purpose mixing with passion was lacking. And again, it comes back to the title of our conversation today. From passion to purpose is actually the heartbeat of what we are here to discuss today. And again, the power of storytelling and skills in shaping Africa's next play. So one's ability to really transmit energy to others is very important when it comes to venturing into a successful management, be it in sports, in business, or in any other thing. Just like Mrs. Beverly said, in 1970, just after the Nigerian Civil War, a group of young men in Enugu came together to form a football team, not for fame or wealth, but to heal a wounded people through football. That team became Rangers International Football Club. And to this day, Rangers is more than a club. It's a symbol of hope, unity, and resilience. And it's a proof that sports can build what politics breaks. That, to me, ladies and gentlemen, is the power of storytelling. And that's why, going again back to the question, when you look inwards, when you speak with yourself, when you reflect upon your journey as a person, or even upon your journey as a people, you begin to tell yourself certain truths about who you want to become and what you want your nation or the identity you want to preserve to look like. That is what we are doing at Rangers, intentionally. And I think this power, that same power that we must harness across Africa to move from passion to prosperity. So when we came, we found that there was no proper structure, no transition for someone that is 13, for instance, to have a future, someone that is 8 to have a future, to grow through a structure and a system. People said it was impossible, but for us, impossibility meant nothing. And today we boast of having one of the most structured youth system, academicals. And even beyond that, going again back to history, you will find that during the era when the likes of Christian Chukwu, when they were playing for Rangers, they all came from the school team, the academicals. And I asked myself and those close to me, if these men succeeded through the system, the academical system, that means our history must not be extinguished. That means we must go back to told that part, because that part brought them success. And that is what we are doing today. And I can tell you, in a space of 2 years plus, we've promoted up to 5 young players to the main team, and they are playing actively. So I will say in a nutshell that it's about strategic plan, it's about belief in the movement that you found yourself in. Now we are using the Rangers example, but for whoever that is listening to us, it could be the belief in, the fashion industry or the fashion institution that you found yourself in. It could be the belief in maybe literature, maybe science. It could be anything, but you must have that belief in preserving your identity. We must not allow other people tell our stories, because when they tell our stories become adulterated. But when we tell our stories is laced with so much passion, raw energy, and all sense of sincerity. So I think I will stop here. We'll still come back.
Yeah, I mean, you've said a lot in a short space of time. You've talked a lot on the facts speak for themselves. In the last 2 years, I can also testify to seeing some of these things, because I've had the opportunity to come and visit the camp, to visit the boys, I didn't get to see the ladies, but at least I saw the boys. And one thing, Amobi, you've been doing really well is using social media to show us what goes on behind the scenes. A lot of people talk about how, oh, I wish I could support more, I wish I could get more involved in sports in Nigeria, right? Because they don't get to feel how sport is run. You've kind of almost brought the cameras right into the club. So to the point about skills, you are one of the few, if not the only club I know, that is properly harnessing, not just talking about the players on the pitch. You've got a team behind you. When I came to visit you in the office, I met your office team. Nobody ever thinks about the support staff in a football club. You only just, your average fan thinks only about the players on the pitch. But Amobi, with you, you always have, your team in your social media. We see Dr. Nena, the legal, who I know. You see all the other staff, the office people, and you've given this new image of sports being very corporate and classy. and even global. You go out there, you go to Switzerland, you're spreading the message about the club far and wide, which is very unlike what we've seen before. So it's interesting that, and I know you didn't emphasize that, but just to bring it out, you have inadvertently made football like very, very attractive. Again, people are like, I want to work with Amobi because his team just looks so ahead of the times. They use social media. A lot of us are still complaining that why don't, apart from some of the North African clubs, Al Ali and a lot of the ones in North Africa, yours is one of the few that we get to see the pain, the passion. When you're raising money for the girls, we see it. When the girls are training, when you launched your football female team, we saw it, and we can go through these emotions with you, build an emotional connection. And when fans have an emotional connection to a sporting institution, that's the magic. That's when the money starts flowing. I know I'm not trying to get you to admit your financial state or anything, but what I'm trying to point out is that you have built an emotional connection through storytelling, through social media engagement, and that requires a different skill set than what we're used to. So I want you to maybe just, tell us what led you to do that. What made you decide, you know what, I'm going to start showing the behind the scenes. I'm going to start showing more of me as a manager. Watching you, Amobi, is like literally, it's like a reality show, but not in the comical way, in a high definition, like Netflix way. I love watching your WhatsApp. Your WhatsApp is like Netflix. I'm enjoying it. I'm like, I know this guy's life. I know what Rangers is going through. I know Rangers, so what was the motivation for doing that?
Thank you so much. You see, when you hear Manchester United, you think of glory and belief. When you hear All Blacks, you think of honor and tradition. When you hear Brazil, you think of joy, you think of redeem, you are talking of the Samba boys. Those are not accidents. They are crafted narratives, and they show us that sports is not only about winning, it's about winning hearts. It's not only about winning games. And Africa has world-class talent, but often others tell our stories for us through lenses of poverty, potential, or pity, rarely through the lens of power, of pride, of professionalism. They don't, because these stories are being told by others. And we felt that must change. That was why when we came on board, we decided to revamp the media department, because the future for us belongs to those who can tell their own story and build the skills to sustain it. And at Rangers, we learned that a story well told is strategy well executed. So when I became a general manager, we started by asking, who are we and what do we represent? We reframed the Rangers as a living institution of unity, of possibility. And every meeting, every partnership, every press release began with that story. And that's why we moved further, and we then added structure. We modernized our digital presence, refurbished the corporate office, which you visited. And we, like I said, we launched the Rangers Foundation, introduced the Rangers Academicals for Youth Development, and we built partnerships with Afro Invest, with Notra Tractors, Kitchen Pastries, a lot of local entities. And we did this not through begging, but through narrative alignment, values meeting values. So we told ourselves we must understand the power that lie within or behind telling your stories. And then when we lifted the 2023-2024 Nigerian Premier Football League trophy, it wasn't just a football victory for us. It was a storytelling triumph. And some of you who followed us, you saw what we did with that. We didn't want to make mistakes. We also looked within the confines of what we could achieve with winning that trophy. And we deviated from doing the normal road show, and we decided to host a trophy presentation to tell our story our own way, to bring the fans closer, for the fans to have a feel of the trophy they've dreamt of winning for a long time. And that's the message. Africa must build stories within structure.
Absolutely.
And now let's talk about the next ingredient, which is the skills.
Thank you. I was about to go there. Thank you.
Yeah, the skills. Storytelling opens the door, but skills keep it open. And to unlock Africa's billion-dollar sports economy, we need to build certain skills. And I think that the most fundamental of all these skills, from my experience as the GM of Rangers and from my experiences before becoming the GM as team manager, as transfer matching system manager, is the pillar of strategic communication. Every club, every sports person's, every manager must know how to communicate a message that moves both emotion and investment. You don't just come out and you are speaking with no emotion. You must say it and you must mean it. You must feel it. Your fans are not just spectators, they are storytellers too. The sponsors are not just funders, they are partners in our narrative. And it got into our head, it got into our heart, and we've followed that trajectory. And that's why at Rangers we realized that every sponsorship must be emotional before it is financial. And that's how you build loyalty and not just transaction. Again, you talk of the pillar of business and Lego literacy. I'm happy that Barrister Beverly is here. No matter how talented we are, without business and legal understanding, we lose control of our narrative. So we must train a generation of sports administrators, of agents, of marketers and lawyers who understand contracts, who understand rights, governance and commercial value. And this is where institutions like Business of Sports Institute Africa come in, because education is not optional anymore. It is the foundation of professionalism. It is the foundation of success, especially for the African continent. And the third pillar, which is the last, I would like to talk about, is technology and data. It's the new frontier of storytelling. The new frontier is digital. Data tells the story of performance. Content, again, tells the story of emotion. That's why when you spoke about, how you live the Rangers way every day, see what we do. We are intentional about that, and we are relentless on our improvement. And then technology tells the story of connection, whether through fan engagement, analytics, or digital rights. Africa must use technology to export its stories globally, not just its players. Our talent is global, and our storytelling must be global too. And that's what I believe. And I beg to submit here.
I just have to, I was making notes as you were speaking. I thought, like, you've taken me back to school. Education is not optional anymore. It is the foundation of professionalism. I have no idea whether you have that in your arsenal of wisdom that you just bring out whenever, or whether you said that off the cuff. But honestly, Education being the foundation of professionalism is absolutely why we are having this conversation today. Wherever you find yourself, whilst we wait for Amobi to come back, wherever you find yourself in that sports value chain, whether you are an agent, whether you are a lawyer, whether you are an administrator, a marketer, designer, and so on and so forth, you can't be any of these things without an education. Some of these areas I've even called out are very protectionist, and you can't even practice as a lawyer, as we all know, without being called to the bar, without going through your requisite training. Same with being an agent. And I think the most popular type of sports agent, there are many types of sports agents for different sports, but I think the one that we tend to talk about the most on the African continent is a football agent. So being a football agent, you do have to pass a certain type of exam at the global level to be considered an international football agent. So again, the whole premise of BOS, of the Business of Sports Institute Africa, is to push not just the advocacy, but also the education side. So we advocate by having the webinars with the thought leaders, but we know that advocacy is not enough. You can be the most eloquent speaker, but if you don't have a law degree, you cannot practice. If you don't have your agent license, unless you're being an agent for your relative, I believe is the only exception, you cannot practice. So we here are trying to advocate and say, look, Africa has been left behind for many years through lack of structure, through lack of access being the key word, to affordable being another key word, through lack of access to affordable programs designed with the African continent in mind. And now BOS is here to change that narrative. And I love what Amobi said about there's always a narrative of poverty, whether we like it or not. A poverty narrative is always pushed subtly, very underhanded alongside sport when we talk about sports in Africa. So it's always NGO-based things. It's always developmental. I'm not saying that there is no place for that. There is, but not all of us are necessarily working or aspire to work in NGOs. Not all of us necessarily work with academies or clubs that need to donate football boots. There are people on this in the audience right now that are very accomplished in their line of business in sport. Adedami is on the call. He's one of the most accomplished sports sponsorship professionals, and also general sports economics in Nigeria. And he doesn't go anywhere near an NGO or donation of football boots. So Amobi, whilst you were away, I was just reminding the audience and reiterating some key points you made about changing the narrative of sports and poverty. That sort of the Western world, the global world has always used sport to donate to us. Oh, they need boots, they need our help, they need free training. A lot of the time, the training is not even adequate or suitable to really make us job ready. So what Amobi is saying is education is the foundation of professionalism. And Amobi, I've said it already, he's the recipient, or rather he's the proud holder of not one, but two very, very top end sports business management certifications. So he didn't get to where he is just by talking the talk or being a politician. He did it the hard way. And that's why we're here today, to reiterate the message that BOS Africa is trying to push, which is we not only are going to do the advocacy, we are also going to train and be committed to providing the relevant marketable sports business modules, courses that your modern sports business global professional needs to be globally competitive. So, Amobi, I think I'll bring you back into the conversation, and I want you to talk a little bit more about what impact taking those international sports certificates had on your career. Like, do you see, like, how we have before Christ and Ado Domini, like, do you see like a major difference between Amobi before he did the UEFA certificate? And I'm not here to promote UEFA. I'm here to just promote sports business education. Okay, so do you see that there was a major difference in your trajectory after you did your certifications? And do you just want to tell us what led you to decide to make such an investment? Because again, that's the reason why we're here as BOS. BOS is here to like solve that gap of, oh, I don't have money, I can't go abroad. No longer. You can start your global sports business career here in Africa, in your various countries. We're not just in Nigeria, we're in 8 other countries in Africa with representatives in Liberia, Sierra Leone, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ghana, and soon Egypt. So we are here to serve most of the corners of Africa. But Amobi, please talk to us. What was your thought process behind wanting to go for not one, but 2 very detailed, intensive, but spectacular programs that, you were here today and we can see the output. So do you want to talk us through? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I will say first that the future of our continent also lies with research. It's about young people reflecting upon being a better version of themselves. Recall that I joined Rangers at 26 as team manager in 2016. After 5 years, I resigned, and then I got to do the UEFA certificate in football management. But before applying, I had researched, and I found that if I get on board to do this course, that I will learn a lot of things: budgeting, strategic planning, execution, and that will make valuable contacts. Because for me, I believe that every day we learn. Every day is a chance to learn, to get better. But there is no man or woman on earth that is the compendium of knowledge. Even at this moment, we will continue to learn. We continue to learn till we are no more. Then, when I got onto the UEFA certificate in football management course at the UEFA Academy, it was clear from day one, from the course outline, that okay, this is surely going to add a lot to what I had already experienced as team manager at Rangers. And after that, I applied to get onto the FIFA Master. The first time it didn't work, and then the second time I reapplied and I got on. And for 9-10 months, I had what I would call one of the greatest experiences of my life. Because from Leicester to Milan to Switzerland, beyond understanding different cultures, we got to look at the history of sports, look at the humanities of sports, look at sports law, look at management. For a lawyer, someone who doesn't like figures, I got to Bocconi, and then I'm looking for calculator to balance the club's balance sheet and all those things. And today, I can tell you that I have no regrets in making such investment. And to whoever that is listening to today, it's not about going maybe to the FIFA Master or to UEFA like Mrs. Beverly said. In one of my speeches in the past, I advocated strongly for a streamlined African sports education system. And I am so happy that today we have one institution that has come to do that. And that day I argued that if we have a UEFA academy, then we should have a CAF academy, because we understand our stories. We understand more or better the history of Mamelodi Sundowns. The girl in Nairobi understands more the history of the club they all cherish in Nairobi. The young boy on the street in Cairo understands why they adore Al Ali. The trader in Aba understands, he can tell us why they love Enyimba. Is it because of the triumph of 2004 and 2005 on the African continent? So someone who grew up in Lyon cannot tell with passion the Rangers story. And today again, I advocate strongly that in addition with what the Business of Sports Institute Africa is doing, we need more institutions like CAF. Who says the Nigerian Football Federation cannot have a department where our football history, our football stories are told. A lot of young people don't know about what happened in Atlanta 96. The Atlanta 96 story alone is enough to inspire a new generation of warriors in sports in Nigeria, not just in Nigeria, in Africa. So going through these courses helped me. It opened my mind, because for every chapter, for every module, you are meant to think deeply. And one striking thing for me during the Bokone module was when we had the presidential election in Nigeria. It was an emotional moment for me. And it opened my mind to the enormity of work that young Africans, young Nigerians have to do. And that was why immediately after the FIFA Master, in as much as I had other options with other international sports institutions, when the call came to come back to Nigeria to work in Rangers, all I needed was to ask my wife, and she already knows my position about Africans building Africa. And look where we are today. We are not where we want to be, but we are not where we used to be. We are making gradual progress. We are holding ourselves accountable. We are letting people hold us accountable. And that is one of the values of going for these courses, because you learn that you have to be accountable to people. In Africa, sports leaders or leaders generally don't like being accountable. I sit on this seat today in trust for the people. That means any woman from Obuete right now can walk into my office to ask me how we defeated Abia Warriors yesterday. And I should be able to tell her, look at how we defeated Abia Warriors, and not shut the door against these people. Because these people are the true owners of these institutions. Beyond sports, leaders in Africa must understand that we are accountable to the citizens, to the people who are the heartbeat of our institution. So I will say in a nutshell that going on this journey, this educational journey, and it has helped me, and it is still helping me. Thank you.
Amobi, I saw something, and I'm very sure that I saw this with you in mind just before we started this webinar. And it was a post somebody put on WhatsApp, and it said, the fastest way to become appropriately confident is to become dangerously competent. So anyone seeing you will say, this guy is very confident. But your confidence does not come like an empty barrel. It is built on competence and structure and understanding the hierarchy aspects of sports business, whether that's administration, whether that's the media side. Issue, but I think I'm back. I had a camera issue, but I'm back now. Okay, so you heard what I said, that when I read this, I thought of you. The fastest way to become appropriately confident is to be dangerously competent. And everything you've said today points to somebody that knows what they're doing. And you know what you're doing, not because you're just speaking eloquently and speaking English, as we say in Nigeria, but because you've taken your time to go through the appropriate training. And it's amazing to me, Amubi, that you did two. You could have stopped at one and everybody would have celebrated, but you went beyond and pushed yourself and said, okay, no, I've done the UEFA certificate, football business certificate, park it there. Let me go again. And it's that pursuit of excellence and that pursuit of knowledge and wisdom, which is what makes you, this is why we invited you today, because you truly are someone that we all admire, someone that truly speaks to the new Nigeria, the new Kenya, the new Gambia, Liberia, the new Africa story, which is founded on competence, skills, and storytelling as well. I just thought I would I would get that out there, that quote was for you. Dangerously competent. But I think we have one question. We can actually take questions from the audience at this point. So, everyone has been listening with rapt attention to Amobi. He's really a great guy, and he is truly what Amobi is, who he thinks he is, and he's truly what he says he is. So I'll put it: he is who he thinks he is, and he's truly what he says he is. He supports people as passionately as he supports himself, in terms of pursuing knowledge. And I want to thank you also for really, encouraging us on this journey where BOS is concerned, because education is, I saw something in the newspaper 2 weeks ago and I could not believe the headline. It was something like, I don't know if it was someone in government that said, oh, these young kids don't think that education is worth anything anymore, that it's about, doing creative things. And I'm not knocking any aspect of, but at the end of the day, I was a bit surprised that someone so high level will say something like that, oh, education is not what it is anymore, So it's nice to hear someone who is young. To me, you're a young person, still promoting the importance of self-application through knowledge building. So I want to take a question, and you can all put your questions through. I think I have one question on my phone, so I'll just read that out to start. So the question is, in your view, Amobi, what are the biggest opportunities for monetization in African football right now? That's the first question. So I'll let you answer that one first.
Okay. The football world right now is about money. Let me just simply put it that way. And Africa is not away from the global sphere when it comes to football. But I think I will get more advanced to just take this question. Why I say I will take this question from an advanced level is if the person asking the question is asking this question from a point of view of, let's say, an academy or just a little club in a state, then you have to really look at how you've set up so that you can make money. When I say how you've set up, what's your presence like on the FIFA transfer matching system? What's your presence like on the FIFA Connect? How are you able to track the growth of young boys who have passed through your sports academy? And again, this question is very important because when you go through the FIFA records, you will find that Africa loses every year millions of dollars in training compensation or solidarity contribution. And that's why with the introduction of the FIFA clearing house, we believe that this would have been curtailed. But it is not true, because at the end of the day, most clubs get from this training compensation even visible on the transfer matching system platform. That is on the one side. On the other hand, for us to really get the economic power that we deserve from our raw talents, from our investment, there is a call to action, especially with respect to African institutions, the 54 federations, the 54 football federations in Africa. They have to do more with respect to educating the people, with respect to putting in the minds of this club or these proprietors, the owners of some, especially the amateur clubs, what they need to do. It's not about the play. It is not. Let me just give an instance. Victor Osimhen, for instance, when he was 12, when he was 13, 14, 15, he played for certain clubs in Lagos. Were they able to benefit from his career progression? That is what the regulation on the status and transfer of players is there to do. I think Articles 20 and 21 and Annexes 4 and 5 of the FIFA RSTP. So that question is really an interesting one, and it's a question that must live every day, because we continue to work, lawyers in sports are working to protect the interest, the economic interest of African clubs and, of course, African athletes, because you see again that there are issues of contract breaches involving African players, because for most clubs, they believe they don't know their right, but it is now becoming a question of the past. Thank you.
Thank you. I have another question here. You may have answered some of them already, but this time you can consolidate, if you know what I mean. If you could design the ideal sports ecosystem in Africa, looking at your experience, what you've seen in Europe, the States, etc., what 3 pillars would it be built on? I'll take it again. If you could design the ideal sports ecosystem in Africa, what 3 pillars would it be built on? Thank you.
Okay. For me, transparency, competence, and accountability. Again, we have a proper system. We have a proper system. But the problem is the people running this system. I will give you an instance again. Rangers is an institution. Rangers is a system, right? But if I leave tomorrow and then someone else comes and this person goes for a match and the supporter comes to say, oh, you signed or you transferred this player. How much was the transfer? The transfer fee. How much did Rangers get? And this person who has replaced me begins to blab and says he can't disclose. It is not the system, it is the person. You know, when we talk about the system is bad, it's people who drive this system. So I would say that for us to have a glorious, a perfect, well, or near perfect, the systems are never so perfect. I would say transparency, competence, and accountability.
Okay, great. Okay, great. I'm glad you said that. And again, competence comes back into it. So I think I have my own personal question, which is, if you're trying to encourage the next young generation, and we know how, what's the word? How, what's that word when they feel they're not sure what direction to take. 10 years ago, a young child a youth, maybe in their 18, 19s, they don't do well in the actual playing of a sport. That could be any sport. I'm not really constraining it to football. What would you tell a youth today who wants to, carry on in sport and feels so discouraged that they cannot fulfill their dream of being a player or an athlete? What would you encourage a young person today? What direction to take?
Yeah, first I will just tell the story of myself, really, because I loved football so much that I left my house and I went to Pepsi Academy in Jos. And I remember my dad called me and said, you're supposed to come and write your post UME at UNN. If you don't come back, I will disown you. And then I came back. I remember after that exam on Saturday, I was praying that I shouldn't pass. So that they will say, okay, this boy, just go and play football. Because I recall the next day we played against Spain, and Nigeria versus Spain in the Under-17 World Cup. I don't forget that. But when I flash back now, it's clear you can multitask as a young person. Don't confine yourself to that story of it's football, it's music, it's dancing, and then I won't go to school. I won't learn other skills. I won't learn languages. I won't do other things. No. Within every creature, within every soul, there is the power embedded in us to do many other things. It is our ability to discover, to stretch beyond limit that matters. So to that young person who thinks that it's only football, it's boxing, it's badminton, you won't play the whole day. You can train and then study. And nobody says you should go and study medicine or law. There are courses you can comfortably do, and you are still playing your football. Why am I saying this? You won't be active forever, but with other powers you have, you will be relevant in the field you love. You will be relevant in that ecosystem that you so much adore and you so much cherish. So I think for me, the advice is this: open your mind to the possibilities that the world gives. Open your mind to the boundless possibilities that and the power within, the power we have. A lot of people have the powers to learn 4 or 5 languages, and they limit themselves and they say, no, I just want to play volleyball. I just want to play football. A lot of people are so brilliant. I have, for instance, in the Rangers women team, if for those who follow, we decided to enroll all of them in a language school. You choose whatever you want to learn.
Good.
And then when I see
is important.
Immediately they say bonjour, monsieur. I will just smile. I say, look at this. It is important. In the coming days, Rangers will sign an MOU with Institute of Management and Technology for the male squad of the institution. Because for us, for our leadership, we believe in the elasticity, the power, the limitless potential that the African spirit possesses.
Amazing. And I love, and sports is an international industry. UMOB, Egypt is like a second home to you. So a little bit of Arabic, shwaya here. You go to Europe, you love French, there's Spanish. Then let's not forget our African languages, the Swahili on the East African side, Liberia, Ghana, Akwaaba. We don't often see the international flavor of sport and the need to actually scale up, get languages. I mean, it's from working in sports that I started even learning a bit of Spanish, because otherwise, why on earth am I learning Spanish? So So, and even Chinese, Mandarin, you know. So yeah, you've raised a valid point. I have another question here. I hope you're still with us. Your screen is a little frozen, but I hope
Yeah,
you're
I'm
with
here.
us. Okay,
I'm
good,
here.
good. I have a
The net-
question here. Very interesting question, but I can already see the angle I will take it into. So the question is, well done, Mr. Amobi Ezeaku. Please permit me to explore a slightly different aspect of the issue. Actually, it's not really different. It's part of one of the skills that we even teach in BOS, which is stakeholder management. But anyway, so the person says, Rangers FC is government owned and may likely face significant government influence as a major stakeholder. What strategies do you implement to balance government involvement while maintaining autonomy in administration and team-related decisions? So the bottom line is, he's asking a question based on stakeholder management. And I just need to drop it in here that stakeholder management is actually one of the courses, one of the modules that we teach at BOS in the Sports Business Administration course. Stakeholder management, Amobi, I mean, you can elaborate on this, and maybe could you just give us a little bit more when it comes to sports administration? How important is it to have good stakeholder management skills? We never think of that, or maybe some of us do, but you're managing so many types of stakeholders, and sometimes some stakeholders can press your neck more than others, or some stakeholders may press more than the other ones who are just as important. How do you balance all these interests, Amobi? I think that's the bottom line of this question. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. And again, it boils down to who we are as a people and your belief as a leader. I said earlier that one strong pillar that we aid whatever we do is strategic communication. You can have the best story, the strongest skills, but without stakeholder alignment, you will always struggle. And every successful institution stands on one truth: people make the project. So if for instance, in Rangers, in football, our stakeholders, okay, for those who may not understand who our stakeholders are, you have the Enugu state government, even the players, the coaches, the fans, the sponsors, the media, and of course the community. Each has their own interests, but leadership lies in harmonizing those interests into one collective narrative. So the conversation I had with the governor of the state when I returned from Switzerland, it was really quite inspiring. And again, I would say maybe because I'm lucky, because he just said to me, please, I would like you to run Rangers and run it professionally. What does that indicate? It indicates that we have less government interference. And what on our own part we do is that we report. There is a system of reporting what we do. You don't need to wait for the government to ask you what you are doing. Transparency entails, accountability entails that even before they wake up, they already know what you've done. They already know what your strategic plan tends to achieve. So at Rangers, stakeholder management became one of our most important strategies. We engaged government, not just as funders, but as partners in social projects. We engaged our sponsors as well, as co-owners of the story, not just advertisers. And that's why, for those who followed when we won the league, by the first season of the sponsorship deal of AfriInvest, they had expended the first tranche of their payment. Do you know that they went out of their way to rent a private aircraft that lifted our team from Jos to Enugu with the trophy, and they spent over $40,000 doing that? So we engaged fans as community stakeholders, emotionally and digitally. And when we started the Rangers Foundation, we started the Rangers Foundation to bridge that gap between the club and its people. And when you talk of government, the people in government are lovers of the club. So you see how strategically we've been able to align all these interests. For instance, in our Rangers under 13, we have about 3 kids of one of the top executives in the state training in the team. And do you know the truth? Top talents. They made it because they had the talent. Now you will begin to think, oh, there won't be issues with people coming to say, no, Rangers should just win. There is no need for academy. Academy football is not for Africa, it's for Europe. No. Rather, people will speak about it in high level conversation. So loyalty, again, not money, is the true currency of sports sustainability. When I talk about loyalty, or when I speak about loyalty, I'm talking about loyalty to the badge. Over time, when people see the passion with which you work, they will be forced to support you. They will be forced not to build, to disrupt the beautiful institution you are trying to build. So I think that for the past 2 years, we've been able to manage the expectations of the stakeholders. I can tell you, even yesterday, if you follow the game against Tabia Warriors, the deputy governor came and he sat before the game started and he stayed till the end and he enjoyed himself.
Amazing. Amobi, I think I've lost you a bit.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're back on. You left for just 2 seconds.
Yeah, so I think it's about leadership and how you try to align this interest. And again, importantly, as a leader and as a young person, you must accept the truth that this interest exists.
Absolutely.
When you accept that this interest exists, then you seek ways to align and balance this interest.
Absolutely. And for me to just chip in a little bit, these are, sometimes I feel like we truly underestimate what goes into running a sports business. We adequately prepare our youth. We adequately prepare as professionals to go into oil and gas business, to go into construction business, to go into so many other types of businesses. But again, when we talk about sports business, I feel like there's always that underestimation about the skills needed to truly anticipate, as Amobi has shown us, that there's a lot you need to kind of take cognizance of and adequately prepare for. And those are not things you do on the fly. You don't just jump headfirst into certain types of roles, particularly executive leadership roles in sports business. You go in fully prepared and fully trained and educated. Of course, education never ends. You have people doing, executive programs along, but the point I think Amobi just really listening to you is you sound like somebody who went in prepared. You went in with your arsenal, like, I see what's coming. I'm going to prepare. I'm going to get skilled up. And then in combination with emotional intelligence, that's another thing that we don't speak enough about, the importance of emotional intelligence, particularly in the sports industry, because it's an industry based on people. It's based on people throughout. So, I really enjoyed that.
I think again that just to summarize so that the person who asked this question will actually get a grip of how we are able to really manage this whole stakeholder expectation. Then there are just 3 things we've learned from our experiences. And the first is I mentioned earlier that you must communicate constantly. Yes, silence breeds assumption.
Very true.
And so you must update to build trust. Send in your updates to build trust. Do you know, when we lose games, I send to the governor. When we win, I send to him. It breaks my heart to tell him that we've lost again, but you have to do it.
Yes.
So I'll tell us a story. So last season, I was in Egypt. Kano Pillars came to Enugu to play. And in the first half, we were 4 goals down. And in the second half, we scored 3 goals. The game ended 4.
Wow, amazing.
They won 4-3.
But still, you came up.
I didn't want to tell the governor. I was in Egypt. Just called me to say, where are you? And you guys lost. I didn't tell him. Do you know what happened? The next day, in the morning, he forwarded the news to my WhatsApp. It was a lesson for me.
Yeah.
He just forwarded it. Oh, you didn't want to tell me you lost. I saw it, and he forwarded it. And I learned that no matter the nature of the outcome,
yes,
regular communication is important. The second one is that you must create value for everyone. Each stakeholder must gain something: visibility, emotion, impact. People are important, and people feed on their visibility, people feed on their emotion. It could be, on the impact they feel that great. And the last one is that we must keep our story consistent from the boardroom to the dressing room. Every message must, echo one identity. And for us, it's never say die. And just to get into the mind of the person who asked this question, stakeholder management is not politics. It's relationship architecture.
I like that. I like that.
It's about emotional intelligence. Thank you.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Stakeholder management is not politics, it's relationship architecture. That just did it for me, quite frankly. And what also comes to mind, because I saw a question there which segues very nicely into this conversation, which is the question is on how, let me see if I can find it. Okay, the question is, what kind of structure or policies do you think can be put in place to make sports law and governance part of mainstream education? What I take from that question is, maybe I've digressed, but governance is also another big aspect of sports business. Okay, so the same way you have in other industries, oil and gas, petroleum, construction, legal industry, media, branding, governance is at the heart of everything we do. And I love what the example Amobi gave, where he has said it too. I didn't say, but he was like feeling a bit ashamed that they lost in Egypt, if I understood clearly, and didn't communicate, didn't send a report to his lead report. But the news still trickled down anyway. And I get two things from that. I get one, there was an opportunity to respin that loss into, we were losing 4-0, but the boys came up strong and gave their all and lost with I don't know what the word is, lost with dignity. With 4-3. So that gives a completely different spin on, oh, we lost. It now becomes, no, we lost valiantly. 4-3. It was a fight to the finish. And that's to emphasize to all of us that we need to not let anybody else take ownership of our narrative, whether that narrative is positive or negative. So we need to take reporting very seriously. And reporting is a part of governance. So to your point about how do we make it part of mainstream education? I mean, in a way, I would say it's mainstream, isn't it? We get taught, children get taught civic responsibility, isn't it? Amobi, did you do civic responsibility at school, or are you too young? It wasn't called civic in my days. It was called something else.
Social studies.
social studies. I think we get, I'm not trying to diminish. I do think we get taught these things, but there's a lot of noise out there. We have social media, there's a lot of noise. So it maybe these values get lost in the noise. So maybe, I don't know, we need to see more clubs like Rangers, um, you know, um, who are proud and they do the never say die, and they promote structure and they promote diversity and inclusion. Maybe if we see more representation, that will help to make, because in my opinion, I don't know what you think, Amobi, sometimes it takes something to gain popularity before it becomes mainstream. I don't know whether that makes any sense. Sports
Yeah,
law only became popular because so many people started getting involved,
that's
and
true.
then everybody sat up. So we need to just take ownership in our various aspects, and it begins with education, doesn't it? What do you think?
That's correct. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. We must move ahead and not stay dormant in one place. And the instance you gave with sports law, especially in Africa, in fact, particularly in Nigeria, you recall that there was a time, the players' union was so dormant, players' rights were really flouted by big clubs. The arbitration committee was just there, a toothless bulldog. I know you read one of the articles I wrote then about the arbitration committee being a toothless bulldog, and people started coming up. You started going to the committee yourself, Barrister Payos, a lot of young sports lawyers, enthusiasts, and look at where we are today. We now file matters before the FIFA DRC, before CAS, and all that. So it's about also understanding, like I earlier said, the power that we have, the intellectual ability that we have. These things are not just meant for a particular continent or a particular group of people. Yeah.
Okay, we were fast running out of time, so there's one last question I think we'll take. I think both of us will share it because it's a question that relates to education. And the question says, what record, although I think it's a bit of a strange question, given that BOS is hosting, but it says, what recommendations would you offer to National Institute of Sports, NIS, and similar institutions to position themselves as leaders in sports and coaching education? Don't you want BOS to be a leader? Like, what kind of a question is that?
I would have
But it's
still answered
fine.
that question
It's fine.
by still saying that what BOS has done today, how many institutions, how many institutes in our country have thought about that? Even the institutes that have lived since independence. Look, I think I have to say this now. I know that there may be people from the NIS, even from the NFF, from the Basketball Federation, who may have logged on to listen to us. I believe in the power of positive collaboration.
Yes.
Who says that the Business of Sports Institute Africa cannot organize classes for some of these federations? Who says that? Because I've looked at the compilation of panelists and tutors gathered by the BOS, and it's mind blowing. I'm coming back to school. I'm for real. I'm coming back to study, listening to people share their experiences. Because again, what you learn, for instance, from the NIS, and what you will learn from the BOS, and what you will learn from the potential CAF Academy, which I have constantly proposed,
Yes.
will make you a whole person. And I think this question will just take me to another thought flow, which I've reflected upon coming onto this webinar. The vision for Africa's next play.
Yes. Yes.
What we have that story. We have the scale. and the stakeholder alignment. So what's the next play? I think what I foresee is a continent where clubs become businesses of identity. Who says Rangers cannot find this logo on a course of BOS? Who says Canopilas cannot send its people to get on the course for BOS? And, we must begin to look beyond the 3 points every
Yes.
Sunday. Every
Yes.
Sunday. We must begin to imagine an Ahmed Musa, Super Eagles captain, player who has gone to the World Cup, getting to the BOS.
That would be great.
Rome is a lecture. And I think after now we mute it to him because he's my very
Thank
good.
you. Thank you.
So, for me, it's about a continent where players become ambassadors of culture. We
Yes.
must, that's why I love what players like the Super Falcons, especially some of them who grew up in the United States. They are so proud of the green, white, green. They are so proud to identify with our culture. The ones from the West, you see them, going prostrate to greet, a lot of things, because they have the platform. So they have become ambassadors of our culture. So it's about an Africa where leagues become engines of economic growth.
Absolutely.
Be economically viable. So that players, about 15, 20 years ago, I was still young, but I read a lot in the news. The South African League had come to Nigeria to understudy the Nigerian League.
Wow.
But
Wow.
today
They've gone far.
So for me, it's about a future where we own our media, we own our sponsorships, our data, our identity, our destiny. So to the young enthusiasts, especially who are here listening, you are not just the future, you are the now. Okay?
The present.
So we just have to do it. You are Africans, new storytellers, sports managers, analysts, and thinkers.
Administrators.
Yes. And your creativity.
Creators. Yeah.
Of course. Your creativity.
Co-collaborators. Yeah. Yeah.
So our voice, your consistency, that is what will define Africa's next century in sports. So learn the skills, build the networks, and don't wait for permission to create. Don't.
Amazing.
Don't wait. Look, there is nobody you are seeking permission to create what is in your head. When we started the academicals, for instance, people opposed it. Today, every Saturday that these kids come to train, we have over 50 parents coming to watch.
Wow. Amazing.
So just create in your young mind.
Amazing.
They say Gen Zs are dangerous, but they forget that Gen Zs do a lot of beautiful things.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
I think I will stop here and
that was like a classic way to really tie in all the superb points that you raised across the webinar. So, I mean, as we begin to wrap up, I actually want to just capture a few takeaways, if you don't mind. And the first is storytelling. It isn't just about marketing. We've gone beyond just selling. It's about identity. And I love what Amobi emphasized. He emphasized on identity. We're crafting, shaping new narratives, the new Nigerians, Ghanaians, Liberians, and ultimately the new Africans, a united Africa that can do things more for itself, for the benefit of its people. So we know that we're important in this picture, and we begin to, represent our identity better. Secondly, skills are the bridge between passion and profit. Like you rightly said, Amobi, education is the foundation for everything. Without the right skills, you cannot sustain growth. Storytelling, what did you say? Storytelling gets you through the door, but it's the education and competence that keeps you in there. Collaboration is key. You've talked so much on collaboration. I'm sorry if we couldn't get through all your questions because we're fast spent with time, but you will agree with me that one underlying theme from start to finish has been on collaboration between the new and the old, the dreamers and the conservatives, between BOS and the existing institutions, and so on and so forth. Our African sports economy will thrive when we build ecosystems, not silos. And that's another very important reason why BOS, even though we haven't fully launched, although our first, the second edition of our first sports business administration course is rolling out end of the month, we still felt it necessary to hear from all of you, to share this news with all of you, because we never know where the next collaboration is coming from. So at this point, I just want to say a huge thank you, Amobi. A huge thank you to Rangers FC, Rangers International FC, for all you've done to support the people, home and away, for your leadership, for spending over an hour today just sharing nuggets about everything from leadership to the youth to identity. And on behalf of everyone at BOS, thank you for being part of this leadership webinar. And I just want to let everybody know that please follow us on LinkedIn. We're here, we're growing, we're expanding across Africa. Our handle is BOS Institute, BOS Institute we're on X, we're on Instagram, we're also on LinkedIn. And we want to be here to help shape the next play for Africa's sports economy through education. So check out the courses we're offering. And we did have an offer for anybody who's on this call. There's a discount available for anyone who's on this call, and you've all been on this call from beginning to the end. You stuck it through. So thank you very much, and watch this space. We're going to be inviting more business leaders. So Amobi, we're relying on you to get Ahmed Musa here and any of your friends across you've got a wide network of, in fact, I met one of your friends actually called Hassan Ez. That's another story for another day. So yeah, we rely on collaboration and referrals. So spread the word. Amobi, Pax Dominus, thank you for everything you've done today. And there will be a playback of this. So if you didn't get to watch the whole thing or you want to share this with your network, please feel free to do so. God bless and take care till the next thought leadership webinar. Thank you very much. This is Beverly signing out. Thank you. Bye, Amobi. Bye. Thank you.